Hi everyone, it's Raina. So this video is if you have your sun in Virgo and your moon in Gemini. Somebody requested this, and this is a great one because I was trying to come up with ideas of my own. Oh my goodness, where do I even begin? I'm just doing this off the top of my head, but I can tell you that this combination is something else all over again because you're talking about two signs that are both ruled by Mercury. So you know right off the bat that this person is going to be very talkative. They're going to think a lot, maybe too much, probably too much, and probably talk too much. And they're going to be in their heads a lot. One thing that makes this a little bit different is that the sun is in Virgo, so that is going to be the dominant force, I would say. I think of the sun as a central influence in the chart. And of course, you have to look at where the sun and other inner planets and planets in general are located because sometimes there are stelliums, there are concentrations of energy in one house. And even if you just have the sun in one house, it can really affect how that the sign is expressed because it can be a lot. Like, for instance, if somebody's a Leo sun sign and they have their sun in the 12th house, it's going to be a bit subdued. So anyway, the sun is our aspirational self, so it's really how we're shining our light on the world. The moon is more of the emotional nature. It's interior versus exterior. It's the yin versus the yang, the feminine versus the masculine. The feminine is the innie and the masculine is the outie. And so it expresses itself, the energy expresses itself either inwards or outwards. And when it comes to the yang or masculine aspect with the sun, it can be, the career, the how what do you call it? Extroverted the person is, and do they feel free to be self-expressive? Actually, I'm just complicating things a little bit because earth and water signs are feminine signs. So you have this masculine planet, the sun, and you have this feminine sign of Virgo in terms of that. And then you have the masculine sign of Gemini, and it's in this feminine planet of the moon. So it's kind of in its opposite areas. And maybe that's good because maybe it balances things out a little bit. But basically, this combination is earth and air. And what I was trying to say is that because, you have this double Mercury and thinking too much and stuff like that, but because the sun is in earth, it might ground that person a lot. I think of Gemini as quite flighty, ADD and stuff like that. I think of Virgo as high-strung, persnickety, and that kind of thing, but not necessarily as flighty and hyper as Gemini. And maybe it's because of that earth. You're talking about Gemini, it's not only a mutable sign, but it's an air sign, so it's kind of airy-fairy. And Virgo at least has that element of earth to kind of keep it on terra firma, if you will. And also having like a goal of things that are useful to one's life and the life of others. So because both of these signs are ruled by Mercury, they're going to be about obtaining and disseminating information. But with Virgo, it is like how to. So I have the moon in Virgo. I love reading nonfiction books. Not to say that I've never read any fiction, but it almost seems like frivolous, like, oh, that's fantasy, that didn't happen. If I do read fiction, I like it when it's semi-autobiographical. It always like that element of reality always is something that I'm attracted to. And so I feel like Gemini can just like reading and information just for the sake of it. And it's almost like the person who is studying to be on Jeopardy or something like that, where they're just gathering little bits of trivia, and they're just like, and Virgo is very much like, okay, can I use this information for something? Of course, you could use it for Jeopardy. So if a Virgo person wants to be on a game show, I guess that's a different story. But you know what I mean. And so suffice it to say, this is a cerebral combination, but it can be very helpful in terms of practical knowledge, along with this intellectual side that just kind of is freewheeling. And the other thing that I would say about this combination is that it's not emotional. Now, I'm saying this as a blanket statement. Mileage is going to vary because you're going to get, like I just said to you, I have the moon in Virgo, and just, my whole life I've been like, why? Well, since I've known about astrology, I didn't understand why I was emotional, and I'm not, emotional in the classic sense, like a water sign or something like that. But I do have a definite side that is emotional. And then I realize that I have contacts to Chiron. I have the moon in conjunction with Pluto, and that's going to make me kind of scorpionic in that sense. And you may have something similar too. So you have to look at where this moon in Gemini is. And I, do personal readings. A person can have the moon in Gemini, but it can be in the 8th house, and they can be totally intense emotionally. And it can really confound them, because it may not even be that they are expressing it, that they are emoting it in a big way, but they still have these really heavy, emotional responses. I almost said emotional thoughts. And I said, but that doesn't make any sense. But it really does, because if your moon is in Gemini, your emotions may be very abstract, and they may come out as, you may feel them. I mean, you might not even feel it, but they may come out as ideas. And it's very abstract in that way. And you have to really find a way to connect with your emotions at a more visceral level. Because if you're not, there's a danger of either analyzing them into oblivion, where you're just kind of, it's like intellectual bypassing, spiritual bypassing, but just kind of like trying to find like this this logic in whatever it is that you're experiencing, if it's a very uncomfortable emotion, and trying to find some kind of logic to it so that you don't have to be bothered by it. But sometimes actually allowing an emotion to pass through you can be much more healing, because it can come and go. And this, another way of looking at it is anger. Anger is one of those emotions that is not, celebrated or accepted. That's not nice to be angry. But if you learn how to express your anger in a way that the other person really knows that you're pissed off, I mean, they have no doubt about it, but you're not screaming at the top of your lungs, you're not, breaking things, and you're not being nasty and abusive to somebody else, to the person that has triggered you, but you're really very precisely explaining why you are so effing pissed, you're going to allow that to move through you, and then it's not going to be festering. When this combination actually doesn't do things like that, and let's say that your Mars, being a Virgo, is in Libra, could very easily be in there, and Mars is how somebody expresses their anger, you could be the queen or king of passive aggression. And with Virgo and with Gemini, this could come out as snark, big time snark on steroids. And that's very annoying, because with the worst case scenario, then the person's also gaslighting, where how people, they're sarcastic and they say these snide remarks to somebody else, and that other person gets offended, and they may show that they're offended, and they go, geez, I was just joking. Can't you take a joke? Can't you take any jokes? Are you that triggerable? Are you that insecure that you just automatically get offended at every little thing and minimize what they've done? That's a form of gaslighting, and it's also, oops, my laptop just fell on the ground. And that is something that is very destructive to interpersonal relationships. So you don't want to do that at all. You want to own your anger and other uncomfortable emotions. And it may be hard at first for you to actually identify when you're angry or identify when you're sad, because again, you've got this real mental thing going on where you're just in your mind, in your head, and it can be too detached. So I think that this is one of the biggest challenges. On the plus side, you're highly intelligent and you can be quite witty. And you can be a lot of fun to be around. I certainly would love to hang with you, because you're probably very entertaining and a great conversationalist, and you probably know a little about a lot of stuff. And yeah, and that can make you, I was going to say, a fun party trick, because you can really get people to think, and you probably have literary talent of one sort or another, a good communicator, and this can actually, with the sun being in Virgo, this might be good for YouTube, like how-tos and homesteading and lifestyle things that are simple living would be a real kind of a humdinger. I don't know if that's a good thing. I can't remember what that means. Vegetarianism, I always associate Virgos with being a vegetarian, or veganism, even better. And what I eat in a day, that kind of thing. Because Virgo rules the 6th house of health and diet, along with the work that you're doing. And and another thing is, how-tos on organizing one's life, time management skills, all those kinds of things. You would be absolutely great at that. In terms of relationships, I think that this combination really needs somebody who they can talk to. So if you are with somebody who, I usually think of men doing this, because women tend to yak it up regardless of what sign they are. But if you're with a man who is the strong silent type, that might be your worst nightmare. So don't overlook the importance of being on the same page intellectually with somebody and having those long conversations, because that might be very difficult for you if you don't have that with your significant other. Also, again, with the Libra, not to pick on Libra, but in terms of relationships, if you are Sun in Virgo and you have your Venus in Libra, you might be attracted to people who are very, and this could also apply to Mars in Libra, I think, too. Actually, they say women should look at Mars to find their what attracts them to men. I don't necessarily agree with that, because I sure am not. That doesn't apply to me in my particular chart, but for you, either or with Venus and Mars. In Libra, that can indicate being attracted to someone because, especially with Venus and Libra, because they are attractive, because they're good looking, because they are a great dresser, they have like a great style. And I know some people would say, oh, who would be that superficial? You would be surprised. There are people who are attracted to these kinds of things. And that is like one of the things that is very important to them. So don't think because something isn't important to you, it isn't important to somebody else. Believe me, it is. And yet that person will very likely live to regret being that shallow, because when they find out that they are bored stiff by that other person, that's when they realize that they made a big mistake by being too attracted to the surface. Luckily, because Virgo is ruled by Mercury, I feel like that might not be as much of a threat that they would do something like that. So maybe you would be more maybe you would fall more in love with somebody's mind than their appearance. And I didn't even say the body, because Libra is not earthy, so it's more of like just having this flawless, appearance and being a very elegant dresser and stuff like that. You would excel in professions that require the intellect, obviously teaching, but perhaps the law, because Gemini in particular is very, glib, and Virgo can be as well, but Virgo, because it's earthbound, it tends to be, sticking to just the facts, ma'am. And Gemini can kind of pile on the horse manure, big time, do whatever it takes. I'm trying to think of that expression, gild the lily, that kind of thing. What else? And yeah, I would say mostly like things that are of an intellectual nature. You probably would not be like really into physical work, although who knows? I mean, there's always a possibility with Virgo as an earth sign that, I could see like being a horticulturalist. I don't know. I can't say it. Into flowers. Maybe an organic farmer now and then. Yeah, so anywho, that's what I have for you. I hope that this resonated. If you would like a private reading, the link is below. Take care. Bye.